Chinelo began crying and continued to convince her, but Udoka remained stubborn. Suddenly, she cleaned her tears, looked Udoka in her eyes and said, "If you don't do as I have said, I will tell the whole world you are." Ikem and Chinelo were married for 5 years. They had all the wealth they desired, but their marriage lacked one thing: a child. In the 5th year of their marriage, Chinelo's greatest fear came to pass. Her husband wanted a second wife. She cried and begged him to give her some more time, but he said, "My wife, I am not doing this to punish you. Look around us. We are very wealthy. Who will inherit all of this?" When Chinelo realized that Ikem's mind was made up, she came up with a solution. "If a wife must be brought into our home, I must be responsible for choosing my co-wife." Her husband accepted. After all, he was only interested in a child. The next day, Chinelo set out to see her best friend Udoka because she planned to ask her to be her husband's second wife. But when Udoka heard Chinelo's offer, she immediately refused. "My friend, how can you say this? Are you not aware that I am getting married to Chidera in 3 months? And even if I wasn't getting married, I am not interested in marrying your husband." Chinelo began crying and continued to convince her, but Udoka remained stubborn. Suddenly, she cleaned her tears, looked Udoka in her eyes and said, "If you don't do as I have said, I will tell the whole world you are Osu, a miserable outcast." Udoka shivered at her friend's threats. She never knew a day like this would come, when her best friend would use her own secrets against her. You see, Udoka's parents were outcasts, popularly called Osu in the Igbo tradition. In Igbo land, there is a popular division between the Osu and Wandiala. The Wandialas are referred to as the son of the soil or freeborn, and the Osu people were usually dedicated to the gods, so they are regarded as slaves, strangers, outcasts, and untouchables. They were treated as inferior human beings, and they were not allowed to dance, drink, hold hands, associate, or have sexual relationship with the Wandiala. So due to maltreatment, Udoka's parents ran away from their village to a distant village to start a new life because the tradition was not fair to them. However, they kept their identity a secret to avoid discrimination in their new home. Chinelo continued poking at her friend. "Udoka, you know what that means for your parents, right? They might be killed or perhaps banished for deceiving the villagers." Immediately Chinelo said that, she left Udoka to think of all she had said because she had no doubt in her mind that Udoka would accept her offer. After all, her parents were involved too. And Chinelo was right. Later that evening, Udoka visited Chinelo and assured her that she would do as she had requested. Chinelo was excited. She hugged her best friend and assured her that they would live in peace. She also apologized for threatening to expose Udoka's secrets. "My friend, Baharam, I was desperate. If a strange woman enters this house, she might make my life miserable. But I know that you would never do that to me." Eventually, the wedding rites were completed, and Udoka was officially Ikem's second wife. One morning, 3 months after the wedding, Chinelo was ill, so the village herbalist was called to treat her. After thorough examination, he smiled at her and Ikem and said, "Congratulations, you are pregnant." Ikem was overjoyed. He had always imagined a day like this. Chinelo was happy, but she was also filled with regrets. She regretted rushing into asking Udoka to be her husband's second wife. So she decided to tell Udoka to leave the marriage because she did not want to share Ikem anymore. And most importantly, she could bear children for her husband. But her plan was soon shattered because the following day, the herbalist came to check up on her again. And just as he was walking out of the house with Ikem, they came across Udoka, who had just come back from the market. He stopped and looked at her immensely. Then he turned to Ikem and said, "I guess it's going to be a double celebration in your household. She's also with child." When Chinelo heard the news about Udoka's condition, jealousy and anger overcame her. She began to think of how her child would compete with Udoka's child over Ikem's properties. Now her mind was made up. She went to tell Udoka to run away with her unborn baby. Unfortunately for her, Ikem overheard her asking Udoka to leave, and immediately he flared up, warning Chinelo severely. "If anything happens to this woman and her child, you do not have a place in this house anymore." Due to Ikem's threat, Chinelo had no option but to put up with Udoka. But it did not stop her from maltreating her, and whenever Udoka wanted to complain, she would threaten to expose that she was Osu. Udoka, on the other hand, tried her best to please Chinelo, with hopes that there would be peace in the home. She even took care of her throughout her pregnancy because Chinelo was always sick. But all that did not matter. Months passed, and the two women had their babies. They even had their babies on the same day. However, Chinelo remained sick, so Udoka was charged with taking care of the babies. When Chinelo recovered, she still did not care about the favor her co-wife did for her. Rather, she became more quarrelsome. Life was so unbearable for Udoka. It became even worse when Ikem developed a stroke 6 years after the girls were born. He was unable to defend her anymore. One day, when Chinelo saw Udoka's daughter, Anwuri, playing with her daughter Isioma, she used the big stick and began flogging her. She flogged her so much on her legs that it caused her to become paralyzed. Now, on top Chinelo's bullying, Udoka also had a paralyzed daughter to deal with. Years later, a young Oyibo medical doctor named James came into the community. He went around houses offering free medical services. When he went past Ikem's compound, he saw Anwuri sitting in front and decided to check up on her. On his way out, Isioma walked into the compound. James was immediately attracted to Isioma, and he began to pursue her with the intention to marry her. Every day, Chinelo would tease Udoka, saying, "My beautiful daughter will soon travel overseas with her husband, but your crippled daughter will live with you forever because nobody wants her." Udoka would only smile when Chinelo would tease her, and that made Chinelo angrier. Well, the marriage rites was complete, and Udoka and Chinelo went to say farewell to James and Isioma at the seaport. As the boat moved further and further out of sight, Udoka began to shout, "Ada mommy! Ada mommy! You are free! You are free! Nobody can ever hurt you." Chinelo looked at Udoka, wondering why she was praising her own daughter with such strange words. She shouted at her, telling her to stop talking about her daughter. But Udoka looked at her, let out a wicked smile, then said, "Your crippled daughter is at home. My own daughter is on her way overseas. I swapped them at birth because I wanted to give her a chance to live free from wickedness and torment." Chinelo could not believe her ears. She knew Udoka took care of both babies from their date of birth, but she never thought she would swap them. "My Isioma will never come back home." I made sure to leave a message in her bag telling her everything that transpired between the both of us. After she said that, she began walking into the sea. Chinelo yelled at her, trying to make her come back, but Udoka wanted nothing more to do with her. She preferred to be dead because to her, that was the only way to be free from slavery. Also, she had nothing more to lose because her parents and her husband were dead, and she had managed to give her daughter a better life than she herself lived. Chinelo did not know what to do. She watched as Udoka killed herself, and she was scared to go back to Anwuri because she knew she hated her and would never forgive her. I mean, why would she? Chinelo was responsible for her disability. So Chinelo began to say to herself, "My life is over. My life is over." And just like Udoka, she began to walk into the sea until it drowned her. The moral lesson of this story can be found in the Holy Bible in the book of Proverbs 18 verse 21. The tongue can bring death or life. Those who love to talk will reap the consequences. There are so many things that Udoka could have avoided if she did not share her family secrets to her friend. Sometimes it amazes me to see the amount of trust we place in people. We live in a world where most people are willing to do anything to get what they want. So you have to learn to not arm these people with weapons that can be used to destroy you. So please, bridle your tongue. You don't have to say everything except there is a need to. We should also be careful with our friendships. It's better to be alone than to be with people that will bring chaos to your life. This is not to say that there are no good friends out there. I'm just suggesting that you be careful. Do not ignore those uncomfortable signs of wickedness people show you, because in a matter of time it will blow up in your face. I'll also like to take a moment to say thank you to everyone that watched my previous videos. My first and second posts were on the 12th and 15th of January, and I must say that the love I have received from everyone is amazing. It really confirmed the gift of storytelling that God has placed in my life. May God bless you. And I pray that my stories will always be a blessing to every one of you. Thank you again for watching this story today. Please leave a comment telling me what you learned, and also do not forget to like and share with your loved ones. Till next time, bye.